Good afternoon. My function here is to start with recognition of the occasion. So if some of you are here and you think you're someplace else and you need to go someplace else, we are very, very pleased to honor two judges for their service, for their dedication, for their involvement in our community. And in this setting of the Judicial Center, as part of our new police headquarters, we think it entirely appropriate for all of the years of service and involvement in the judicial system and in the city of Aurora that it's appropriate that we do this. I will say to you, it's probably the only occasion that you've walked into a courtroom and felt really good. There's nothing happening here, so you're fine. And I also want to assure you that the picture on the front page must have been after a particularly difficult day for both of the judges. They are much happier persons than they appear. And as attorneys, we know that whether they're happy or sad, we just take it as it is, and we're very careful in that regard. So I'm very pleased to be able to honor these gentlemen, in part because I've been able to work with them and know them for a number of years in the community. Justice Grometer and I go back a few years. We're not going to say when that all started, but we'd go back a few years. And I had the great opportunity to be able to work with him professionally as an attorney, but also a number of the community organizations that he was quickly involved with by his commitment in the community, and I appreciated that. I appreciated the service that he gave over a number of years as a judge in the circuit court and then as a justice in the appellate court. I think he was recognized highly by his peers, by the community of the attorneys in regard to his ability to manage a courtroom, to treat people decently, to move things along fairly in a system of justice. And we were very pleased that we had the opportunity for him to be in that position for many years. What was even more delightful after retirement, he got right back into the community and got involved in a lot of different things. And we really do appreciate that too, because it's continued on using his talents in our community. When the mayor asked me to speak today, he said, "You certainly are going to give some good stories." Well, I'm not one who necessarily does that all the time, and secondly, you got to be careful in stories about judges, because either you might be appearing in front of them at some point or in front of their colleagues who they'll hear the stories from. But at least in Judge Grometer's case, I do want to disclose that I did not put on my economic disclosure statement the fact that after I marched in the parade for him and supporting him for judge, he did buy my wife and myself an ice cream cone. So I want to make that clear. Everybody got an ice cream cone in that regard. So that was only part of his fairness in regard to how he treated people. That was another aspect of really enjoyment in working with Judge Grometer. In the sense of we got into the political scene. He was very supportive of a number of the races that I have been in. I was very, very pleased to support him in his run for judge. Additionally, we worked hard together with many others in electing Forrest Etheridge as state senator, who was an outstanding senator. Very pleased to have been able to work in politics and really be proud of what you're doing in politics, and that is a mark of Justice Grometer also. In regard to Judge Mueller, he is a much younger man, and so our contacts don't go back as far, except I did have the opportunity to work with him professionally again as an attorney. But I also know that in regard to his service as a judge, he was extremely highly respected for the manner in which he treated people, for his innovation and thinking about the judicial system. He was in the forefront of many, many changes and many improvements in the system, and I think he's again highly respected by his peers, his colleagues in regard to what has been accomplished in his time as a judge. I would indicate as the story about Judge Mueller, he's a very busy person in obviously doing his job, but also very busy in his contacts, as you'll tell from the program in the community. But he never passed up the opportunity also as a citizen of Aurora to express to his alderman how he felt about some issues. And it was easy to do that once I became acquainted with the fact that he only lived 2 blocks from me. But secondly, anytime I would appear in court when he would have an opportunity to say something about something, it was good expression of that. So he was very involved and knowing all the time in regard to what's happening in the community. I would indicate that America right now is struggling mightily with trying to define what is a good public servant. We're having a real problem, I think, identifying what makes up somebody who wants to serve in various offices. If you take the qualities that these gentlemen have presented throughout their professional career, throughout their career in working with people, of integrity, of wisdom, of common sense, and most importantly, I think, of humanity, anyone who aspires to be in the position of a public servant will certainly not go wrong in emulating the careers of Judge Grometer and Judge Mueller. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you today? It's a very happy occasion. Not that you would know from looking at the pictures on the front of the program. I had to laugh myself when I saw that. I think we're honoring these 2 gentlemen for a lot of fine qualities. These 2 guys look like hanging judges to me. I don't know. So, but our former U.S. Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall said, quote, "In recognizing the humanity of our fellow beings, we pay ourselves the highest tribute." And I think when I look at our 3 branches of government, the judiciary takes, right off the bat, takes a very special person to operate at a high level. There has to be a high level of intelligence, the ability to discern. There has to be some level of empathy and even sympathy, I think, to perform that job well. But I do think that the greatest and most important quality of a successful judge is, in fact, humanity and a sense of humanity. And I think these 2 gentlemen that we're honoring today exemplify exactly that. Not only have they been fine judges, but their sense of humanity has been illustrated by their involvement in the Aurora community for decades. These are people, and I think one of the hazards of politics or elected office in general is that we can become a little high and mighty. We can take our power for granted, et cetera. And I think in the judiciary that's particularly a problem because judges have an extreme amount of power in their careers, in their job description. They have a lot of power. And it would be easy, I think, and there's certainly some examples, I'm sure, out there of judges who took that power for granted, who thought they were so brilliant that they deserved that power. But what I love about these 2 men that we are honoring today is not just the sense of humanity, but the sense of humility that they exhibit. These are people of high office who are just one of us, in my opinion, that they are always involved in the community, trying to make the world better, and trying to make even the judicial system better when we take a judge who initiates an effort at a kind of a drug court to help young people not get ensnared in a forever situation, not have their reputations and livelihoods ruined by mistakes at a very young age. And so these are the type of things that these gentlemen exemplify. Justice Grometer and Judge Mueller have been great examples, not only on the court on the bench, but within the community as well. And that's why it's such a pleasure for me today to be able to do these namings in their honor. And if it's okay with you, I think we'll start with Judge Mueller, since we're right inside by his courtroom here. And if you don't mind, I'm going to read a little bit of their biographies. The other thing that struck me as I read these biographies, because these will be here long into the future, much of what's said in these biographies is cast in the past tense. And it's a little awkward when I think about it because they're still with us and hopefully for a good long time. So if you'll excuse that little awkwardness, I will read the biography of Judge Thomas E. Mueller, a longtime resident of Aurora. He was originally appointed to the bench in 1995 as an associate judge. In his time as associate judge, he spent 5 years in juvenile court, which led him to start the Kane County Juvenile Drug Court. In 2006, he was elected to the position of circuit court judge, a position he held until retiring in 2016, which hasn't quite happened yet, if I'm right. We got a little ways to go, right? Okay, we're not pushing you here. Judge Mueller is a graduate of the University of Wisconsin-Madison and the Loyola University of Chicago School of Law. Over the course of his career, he has been a frequent lecturer on law-related topics with an emphasis on juvenile justice and child protection issues. Judge Mueller has also served as a board member for Family Counseling Services, Plum Landing, and Aunt Martha's Youth Services, and was president of Big Brothers Big Sisters Advisory Board. He also served as a volunteer mentor at Washington Middle School and at West Aurora High School. So you can see that intimate community involvement by Judge Mueller, which again I think points to the fact that he's not only been a brilliant judge, but a very active and respected citizen of our community. So if I could ask Judge Mueller to step up here. We're going to do a little unveiling, and we're going to have to work our way around here, right? Let's do this first over here, Judge.
Okay. All right.
See if I can do that. If I could have snuck right through there. So this plaque will introduce people to the courtroom, named after the Honorable Thomas E. Mueller. And again, his biography is here. This is a temporary version. The permanent version will be even nicer than this. And we're very proud to honor you with this, and we're happy to see that as people enter this courtroom, they will learn about your career. And then secondly, emblazoned over the door, this is a rendering of what that will look like. And some of you might not be able to see it very easily, but once we break for the reception, we'd be happy to have you come up and take a look. So, go ahead. So the permanent, these will be in place before long. Unfortunately, there were some difficulties in getting them produced as quickly as we originally thought, but it's going to be a very beautiful thing, I think. So with that, I would ask, yes, let me present a copy of your plaque. You could put this up, in the bathroom at home or wherever you want. And I'd ask you if you'd like to say a few words.
I'm wondering if it's a dartboard. Well, I'm going to blame Clayton because my good old friend Clayton Muhammad called me today, and I was on the bench, but he left me a message. And included in that message was that I would be invited to make remarks, and you don't tell a lawyer that they're going to have an audience and then say a minute or two. I mean, there's no orchestra here to cut me off like at the Tonys and the Oscars, so here I go. I first and foremost want to thank the mayor and city council. When the mayor called me, I was dumbstruck. I can't put into words yet how much this means to me coming on the eve of a retirement. I often think, what do you want when you retire? Never in my mind could I think of leaving a footprint on this city as you're allowing me to do. It's just such an incredible honor. I also want to thank my family. I was going to go into this long explanation that they've already moved to Norfolk without me, but they are here today. In the rear, my wife, Carol. And up front here in the dark green blouse is my daughter Emily. They flew in and surprised me, so it was amazing. There are also one other representative of what has become a small family. My niece Kim and her husband Garrett are here. Kim is a teacher in Batavia, and they live in DuPage County, and they were kind enough to come. My one and only sibling is vacationing in Virginia. So something about Virginia, there's some theme here going. But I also want to take a minute to thank the friends that are here, and I won't name everyone because we need to move on, I understand that, but I do want to point out two in particular. Judge Caldwell, Mike Caldwell is here, and Mike had the belief in me 21 years ago to anchor the boat that got me onto the bench as an associate judge, and I will be forever grateful for this opportunity that you've helped give me. And Tom didn't mention it. He mentioned some of the bad things about judges, what they can become, but one of the things we are automatically when we take the bench is we're isolated. We have to follow certain ethical provisions and codes that really isolate us from a lot of lawyers that used to be our social group, being involved on boards and in activities that we enjoyed as a lawyer. All of a sudden, that's all off the table. You can't do any of that anymore because you're a judge and you have to appear, that you have the impropriety isn't there and that you're objective and you're fair, and unfortunately, that removes you from a lot of socialization. I thankfully had, for almost all of the 21 years, Patty Golden as a colleague on the bench, and she truly was my best friend on the bench. We ate lunch once a week, if not more, and that relationship and that ability to talk about the job with someone was, I know, important to both of us. And I thank you for being here today. And I know that our former Chief Judge, Braca, would be here today, but for the fact that she has a retirement dinner starting at 5 o'clock up in Wayne tonight. So she called me and said, I can't be in Aurora at 4 and be in Wayne at 5. And since I'm the guest of honor, I think I need to be on time. I agreed. So I just wanted to briefly talk about this wonderful career that I've had. It isn't work. It has just been a blessing. 21 years ago, I took the bench and got assigned to the Aurora Branch Court, and that was the normal first assignment, either Aurora or Elgin, kind of depended on what courtroom was open. Not so much where you lived. There were people from Aurora that had to drive all the way to Elgin and vice versa, but I was lucky enough to get the Aurora assignment on Labor Day of 1995. Unfortunately, 3 months later, because of some shifting that needed to occur amongst the judges, I was told, you're leaving. I said, 3 months? I thought you got 2 years at least, No, 3 months. And off I went to Sycamore, also known as Mayberry. And I was hoping that my dear friend Maureen Josh from Sycamore would be here, but they made me feel so at home out in Sycamore, as they did in Yorkville when I sat in Yorkville on more than one occasion. I was the presiding judge down there for 2 years, and it was a wonderful place to be. St. Charles was nice as well. Geneva was okay, but this is home. And last fall, our new chief judge, Susan Clancy Bowles, made the mistake, I think, of calling me and asking me before she started to make assignments of judges. She called and said, Tom, I'm calling you first. You can go wherever you want. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, you have seniority. I'm giving you your choice. And I said, do you really mean any courtroom I want? And she said, yes, I do. I said, fine, I'm going home. I'm going to Aurora. So I came down here last fall, and I will retire from this courtroom, and it will just make it that much more special to me that now there is going to be this footprint left behind. I was very involved in Aurora before I went on the bench. And again, because of being on the bench, I had to step back from a lot of it. But for the fact that my only child married a man from Norfolk, whose family's been there for hundreds of years and is very, very settled, I would be staying here. But when you have one and only, you follow the one and only. At least that's been the attitude that my wife and I have both held pretty firm with. So I'm going to leave in August and take up residence in Norfolk, Virginia, which Granted, they have an ocean, but we have a river. There's a lot of similarities between the two cities, and I'll leave it at that. I'm very, very much looking forward to re-engaging in the kinds of activities that I loved so passionately in Aurora, getting involved with child welfare issues, getting involved with juvenile justice issues, mentoring some kids who are having trouble finding their way to adulthood. I hope to do some teaching, if not at the high school level, at the university or college level, on juvenile law issues, and would just hope that I can re-engage and enjoy it as much as I did all of the years that I did that here in Aurora. And so, knowing that there's still more to come, I will wrap things up, because I know it's warm in here and there's more to listen, a lot more coming. So I just want to say thank you all for being here. Thank you particularly, Emily and Carol, for shocking me by flying in today. I had no idea till half an hour ago that they were here. And thanks again to the mayor and the county board and the city council. Thank you so much.
As Clayton suggested, the half of the building, we didn't really name the whole building after Justice Grometer, because that's the police department. Which reminded me, Judge Mueller's use of the word footprint, leaving a footprint behind. And actually, I was trying to compare judges favorably with other elected officials, many of whom in Illinois left their fingerprint behind. This half of the building will be named in honor of Justice Grometer, and we'll unveil these so you can see what it's going to look like in the very near future. But before I do that, I would like to read Justice Grometer's biography. Justice Peter Grometer, and it's actually our Peter Grometer, and I never did find out what the R is. Robert. Okay. That was a really important fact that we probably should have put on your plaque, but we didn't do it. He was originally appointed to the bench in 1985 and sat in the old Aurora Police Court building on Lake Street. He went on to serve as a circuit judge for the 16th Judicial Circuit of Kane, Kendall, and DeKalb counties, where he also served as the chief judge. In 2001, he was appointed to the 2nd District Appellate Court, covering all of northern Illinois outside of Cook County. He served as the presiding justice before his retirement in 2009. Justice Grometer is a graduate of the West Aurora School District, Michigan State University, and the University of Illinois College of Law. Justice Grometer has served in many civic and charitable organizations, serving the city of Aurora and Kane County, including the Juvenile Protection Association, Aurora Civic Center Authority, and Paramount Arts Center. He also served as secretary of the Aurora Foundation and is the vice chair of the Aurora Human Relations Commission. So once again, you see this pattern of community involvement. And we are very, very proud to name the Branch Court building in honor of Justice Peter Grometer. So, Justice, if you would step up. So here's the plaque that will be right outside. We might see if they want to change the picture. I'm not sure. All right. And then secondly, okay. I guess we'll just go. Okay. And his name will be proudly emblazoned on the door.
Wow.
Wow. All right. Justice.
Thank you. Well, this is an honor. It really is an honor, and it's very humbling to have received this honor. I'm just thankful to the citizens of Aurora that they chose to do this. I give thanks to the mayor and to the city council that they decided to honor me in this way. I'm Grateful for all the colleagues that I had over the years and for the lawyers who appeared in front of me and did such a fine job and presented themselves so well. I have my family here. They all live within 1.5 miles of me, and that's really nice for Grandma. And actually, some of them are living with me right now. So we see each other. It's grand. It's just wonderful to have them so close, and they've been very supportive of me all through these years, and they're behaving themselves exceptionally well today. Thank you very much. You know, when I started to run for office, I used to have a stump speech like everybody does, because if you're on the bottom of the ticket, as judges always are, they say you got 30 seconds or maybe a minute, and you had to get the whole spiel out there. But that didn't work so well for me all the time, because I would start my speech with a quote from Socrates. 4 things there are that belong to a judge: to hear courteously, to answer wisely, to consider soberly, and to decide impartially. Well, that's all true, but it's almost impossible to do. And over the years, I tried my best to live up to that. And to those who I failed, and I know that that did happen, I regret it, and I will always regret that I could not do it perfectly. But I tried to do it as best as I could. And I, like Tom, started out here in the old Aurora Police Court building, and I loved that job. I always said if I had a choice coming back, I'd had 3 choices. I could have gone to the appellate court where I served, and I loved the appellate court because I loved to read, and I loved to write, and I loved the camaraderie up there. I loved juvenile court and spent many years in juvenile court, as did Tom. And to see the progress that were made by the kids that came through there was wonderful. I still get some Christmas cards, and not so many anymore, but you still heard from them, and you were always pleased to know that there had been at least a couple that were successful. But then I always said, I'd just like to come back here to the Aurora Branch Court another time. And just, you know, it's just good to be king, and you're here by all yourself. So, for those who don't know, I did retire, and I kind of cut back into the life of doing civic work, and I enjoyed doing civic work. People asked me when I retired, they said, what do you do with your time? I said, well, Monday through Friday, I don't do anything, and Saturday and Sunday, I try to rest up. So I got back involved, and it's wonderful. I love this city. I love what goes on in this city. I'm excited about this city, and so I'm awfully pleased to have this building named after me. You know, there was a recent article in the Bench and Bar. I don't know if anybody else read it. I did. It was Justice Linden or Justice Hyman out of the First District Appellate Court, and he was talking about the judicial prayer. And it's not really a prayer. Actually, it's a letter, it's a sentence that Abraham Lincoln wrote in a letter after he received the Republican nomination for president. And he was explaining the task in front of him, but many of us tried to adopt it and have used it over the years. And it went like this. It says, "May the Almighty grant the cause of truth, justice, and humanity shall in no way suffer at my hand." And we won't tell a lot of people this, but there were many times, almost daily, that before I would take the bench, I would stay there in my chambers, and I would say a prayer somewhat similar to this, asking that God help me not to cause any harm. And I hope that I have not done so over the years. I thank you all for being here. I know it's a beautiful night. I know it's got lots of nice, good stuff in there. I know it's cocktail hour. I'm just ready to say thank you again, and God bless you all. Thanks.